Okay, now I don't know if this is original, but yesterday it came to me that when a person dies, it is like a library burning. And then this morning, it's somehow it just seemed to me like I had read something somewhere before that says, when an old man dies, a library burns. I don't know. It's just, I can't say where I read it, if I did read it, or if it just came up in my mind. But I want you to think about that for a little while and think about what I just said. Uh, when, when a person dies, it's like a library being burnt. And I extend it to the older the person is, when he or she dies, the larger the library that has burned. Make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
The older you are, the more you know.
The more
Knowledge.
data, the more knowledge, the more information you would have acquired. And it crossed my mind because recently, well, it's not so recent anymore. My father died in 2011, and he was a wealth of knowledge for us, and many who knew him would have said the same thing. Um, my mother died last year, Brother Bovril, so I kind of know what you went through in December.
Yes.
It's never easy. One of the things that strikes you when someone, especially a parent, dies, but not only a parent, people you interact with or you have interacted with well, is that this interaction will never take place again.
That's right.
The words you used to hear, this song that Erica and I just sung, it's interesting that she chose it because it was one of my mother's favorite songs, Sweet Will of God. And as we started to sing it, I remembered her voice just singing this song. You know, I'll never hear her singing it again in this life. So something has died. But you know, I heard, it was probably you, Brother Barbara, last night. Hope I don't mixing up my people now, but somebody talked about, I think it was you, how the mother would pray for them. I know my mother was also a praying woman.
Yes.
When you raise 10 children, you better pray. Especially when 7 of them are boys,
Yeah.
and the first 5 are all boys. So you better learn to pray. And she learned to pray. And I believe it is her prayers why I am where I am today, and where David is where he is today. And it's just interesting that of the 10 children that they raised, none has turned the back on God.
Amen.
We're at different stages, but everybody still acknowledges God. But I want to extend what I was saying there now to us. I was born a Seventh day Adventist. My father was a Seventh day Adventist pastor. I learned a lot in Adventist doctrine. But in latter years, I went beyond the Adventist knowledge to a broader understanding of God and humanity. God is not about saving Seventh day Adventists, nor Baptists, nor Methodists, nor Catholics, nor Presbyterians. God is about humanity. God loves humanity. And whether you are a Presbyterian or a Methodist or a Pentecostal or whatever you may be, God loves you.
Amen.
And God's outreach, God gave his son for everybody. But you know, humans tend to like to cage God up for themselves. the Adventist God, the Catholic God, the Baptist God, they all want to think that God is just the way they package him to be. Is your hand up, Karen? You want to say something? Okay, fine. So that is one of the things that Satan has used to most destroy the relationship between God and man.
Agreed.
Because in the church I grew, I just felt like everybody had to become a Seventh-day Adventist before they could be saved. And that's what many of them think right now. Other sheep have I which are not of this fold. This fold is what? Seventh-day Adventist Church. Other sheep have I which are not of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Them also will I bring.
Yeah.
To Seventh-day Adventism. That's the thinking.
Right.
And that's the thinking that many today hold. And I really thank God for having liberated my foolish mind.
Amen.
That we can see the true God of love. But I'm just saying this to say that in all the years I have lived, I have acquired a lot of information. And in a library you will go and you will find books of fiction, books of science, books of geography, books of all kinds of subject areas. And if all of you check it out, you've got all of that inside. Everybody has some of each type inside. But when I used to love reading novels, although I grew up as Seventh-day Adventist, I was an avid reader and I just loved to just consume those books. So I read anything that was entertaining and engaging and so on, and I loved it. That was our entertainment in those days. We didn't have televisions and computers and all those things, so we read books. Book was your entertainment, and we loved it. And that was where I got all my adventures. But when you read a fiction, a fictitious work, you know it's fiction. So it provides some entertainment, some engagement, and so on, but you don't take it as reality. I used to love watching when I finally got to the point where TV became a reality and movies were there and so on. I used to like watching sci-fi movies. It looked so fantastic, they make all these things happen, but I knew it was fictitious. I knew this wasn't reality. And so you enjoy it for the moment, you take the pleasure of it and the thrill and so on, and sometimes you tend to see what out of it may be a possibility for reality. Of course, back then when we watched those things, a lot of things that seemed like they would never happen, we see them happening today. Because sci-fi of 30, 40 years ago is reality in 2021. A lot of things we thought would never have happened. In 30, 40 years ago, none of us would have imagined that I could be here sitting in my room, in this little room in Jamaica, and you're looking at me and you're hearing what I'm saying, and I'm seeing your faces and I'm hearing your voices just like that. It would have seemed impossible. Dick Tracy used to have a little two-way radio, and he used to talk on the watch and see the person's face and say, oh, that was just a fantastic science fiction. It could never happen. It happens. Right now, it's happening. We all know that. Smart watches. And so, there are things that we accumulate along the way. There are things that are real, and there are things that are not real. One of the problems we face is that sometimes we can't tell the difference. Sometimes we don't know what's real from what is not. To make it even worse, the world is structured in such a way to make us think that God and the things of the spirit realm are the fiction. And what we have here, the physical being and these things, these are reality. And so, for many people, even those who call themselves Christian, God is a faraway concept. He's somebody way up in heaven somewhere. He might hear some things I say. You know, they used to have a thing they tell you when you're young. When you're going to do something, you look left, you look right, you look front, you look back, but you don't look up. You don't see that God is watching you. Because for them, God is up there somewhere. But for us who are God's people, God is not up there somewhere. God is right here with us and within us. He is our present reality. And we have to get to the point where God becomes the reality and everything else becomes the false. This body that we have is the false. This is the tabernacle that we dwell in for a time. It's going to go right back to the dust. So what's so real about it? It exists now. It's a transitory thing. What is real is the spirit that is in me. What is real is the eternal Spirit of God that joins with my spirit and makes me everlasting. That is everlasting life. And I'm talking about the spiritual life. We have now I have the library of 66 books on my phone. I have it on the computer. I have it all out. I have physical ones too. They're all over the place. How often do I visit that library and read those books and get the information? How often do I visit with a person who has that knowledge and information? Because that's a library too, to get that information. How often do I visit with the author of all libraries, God himself? How often do I ask him for insights? And I'm saying I know that some of us do. I'm just asking us to look at ourselves and question this. Because librarians are always looking for more books to add to the library. Because they want to have a good collection that anybody who comes can get something. We should be looking for new stuff to add to our libraries too. So we look for it and we bring it in. And then when people come to visit the library, they can find what they need. Are you with me? They can get what they need. So a library is both a giver and a taker. It is a repository for God's wealth of knowledge, for God's breadth of love. Our library is a library not just of data. It's a library also of emotions, love, caring, listening. All of these things that you have, these are things. So God gives us not just data, not just, one of the things I said to Adventists, we're always people of the Word. We knew the Bible. We knew the words of the Bible. But there is more to God, so much more to God than words. Because every emotion that a person experiences, God knows how to relate to that. And therefore we, as his hands and his feet and his eyes and his lips, ought to be the media through which God gives this to people. So we are a library of every good gift that God has for humanity. But we must keep stocking the library as we receive from God. And then we are transmitting that to others. And then our lives are enriched. Then we are happy. That's how you find true happiness. One of the difficulties we have is that the world, or Satan through the world, has told us that the truth, the source to happiness is making yourself priority. So you need money, you need food, you need clothes, you need shelter, you need a car, you need a good house, and so on. And then you will be happy. You need a wife or a husband and all these things. All of these things that feed you, you consider those the things that make you happy. They're not. That's why the richest men in the world are unhappy. They have everything that money can buy. They can get anything in the world. See, some of them even gone out into space now. And they're inviting you to come and take a trip into space because they think that's going to make them happy. It doesn't bring happiness. True happiness is received when you make others happy. There's a song we used to sing when there's the time to be happy is now, and the place to be happy is here, and the way to be happy is to make others happy and to build a little heaven down here. Brothers and sisters, I see 9 cameras, 9 people connected today. There's just 9 of us here. A very small company. But we can make this a little heaven. And the way to do that is to make others happy. To share what God gives us with others. Everything that God gives us with others. Let our libraries be beneficial to those around. And I tell you something, it's not going to stop with the 9 people in here. When you are sharing love, you feel something bubbling over that you want to share some more. And when people feel love, they respond. Love begets love. And there is nothing that draws people to God more than love. Not your good doctrines nor good sermons that you preach. Jesus said, they will know you are my disciples by the love. And so let us ensure that going forward from today, this love, this sharing of this library becomes a priority for us because we have received the life of God. That is my prayer for us today. And I'm going to open it up for further discussion because I know some of you must have thoughts on your minds. But that's where I stop for now.